actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, we will unpause and then repause. And we've got plenty of nice Yunnan Jig tea. This is that black tea from Jam and Bean, of course. Oh, brewed a whole bunch of it this morning. It's so good. You know a tea is good when you can drink it hot or cold, and it's equally as good. That's basically what you're getting with this. And a little bit of caffeine. There's a reason I'm more energetic, and it ain't just the mushroom pills, let's put it that way. We've got all sorts of stuff to cover today. We've got some fun news, actually. The MAHA movement, America's Food Reckoning. This is from Axios. So, naturally, they're not necessarily on RFK Jr.'s side. But it's very, very funny. And I'll get into it more. It's very, very funny seeing some people on the left have to defend high processing foods. After years and years of telling people to eat more kale, the left is now on the side of pharmaceutical companies and companies that produce massively processed, like burgers and shit like that. I find this absolutely hilarious. I had to put this in the news for the day. We've got a Wikipedia bias article. Now, this one is less funny. This one is much more concerning because it has to do with AI scraping. And unfortunately, of course, if it's on the internet, it can be scraped by AI. So what happens when a group of people decides to sanitize their website and make it far, far left? Well, then AI is being partially trained on that material, and Wikipedia is one of the big ones that is consulted. That is a problem. Trump celebrates Labor Day as the most anti-union president ever. Good. Although that's not true, it's very hyperbolic. I wish he were the most anti-union because unions have been an abysmal failure over time. Greta Thunberg, who has hit the wall at 22, by the way, and now looks like she's trying out for some sort of 1970s dystopian film or something like that. Appears to have gotten a little bit chubs as well. Greta Thunberg's narcissism knows no bounds. Yeah, she was trying to run an aid campaign into Gaza with a token supply of food, knowing full well ship's going to be detained and stuff. It's just a publicity stunt. She's there to make money for her stupid family. Rosie O'Donnell apologizes after falsely claiming Minneapolis church shooter was a Republican MAGA supporter. Turns out it was actually a far-left transgendered individual who seemed to have hated people in the Trump camp and wanted to kill Donald Trump. Her non-apology is noted. At least she made it, I suppose. Human plague case in New Mexico. India's lion population is surging, causing some growing pains. Personally, I'm like, yeah, come on. Let the lions have their own room to roam, you know. Establish a few other survival areas for them. Get their population up even further. Yeah, just let them roam around. I mean, you've got fucking cobras and shit like that, so who cares? Plane carrying EU's top leader targeted by alleged Russian GPS jamming. That's fairly major, I would think. LA council member accuses Home Depot of being complicit with ICE raids and opposes new store over silence. Yes, because Home Depot is supposed to come out and weigh in on sociopolitics. They're not just there to make money. They're supposed to send their employees out there with billy clubs to fend off the police that are trying to deport all of the illegals that wait outside for people's landscaping needs. I guess that's the way that they're supposed to act. It's really funny. Yeah, so happy Labor Day, everyone. Leftoids seem to think that means unilaterally supporting unionization, even when it's generally unhelpful. I look at it more as, hey, yeah, there are people in the working class. Let's celebrate the fact that they work hard to put food on the table. You don't need unions for that. Fuck unions. Unions are retarded. Completely useless. Relics of a past era. Oscar Gonzalez. Lions help control the human population. They don't kill enough people to really make a dent. You're looking at mosquitoes more than anything else. That's the funny part. The biggest killer of humans isn't even other humans, it's mosquitoes. Humans are number 2 on the hierarchy of human killers, which I didn't know until a few years ago. I saw that and they were looking at, like, especially malaria statistics. It's like, oh shit, this little tiny insect that generally it's just an itchy bite actually is better at killing us than we are ourselves, including our nuclear weapons. We have a formidable opponent. Yeah, Jeff Garman. Do as you are told. They don't want you thinking for yourself. Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to unequivocally support unions, even when those unions are not doing anything for their workers, which is most of the time. I remember debating that chick, Jessica, I can't remember her last name, on the Break the Rules podcast. And she was like talking about unions. She's pro-union. I'm generally anti-union. I'm like, if you want to form a union, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. You have the right to do that, but it shouldn't be forced. It should be voluntary. If somebody doesn't want to exist within that union, they should be able to do so. And she could not formulate an argument against why it should be voluntary. She faced with the impossibility of trying to do so because it's self-evident. Why should you be compelled, especially when the unions often are run by people who make a shit ton of money and they just take a kickback from the corporation anyway, so they're not really delivering anything other than peanuts for the workers. So like they're demanding a $2 an hour across the board flat raise, okay? And in the end they get 20 cents or something like that. That's what unions are there for. It's just an attempt to, at this point, stymie the employees from actually gaining meaningful representation. Parlock 480, how do you think the situation in the UK will end? That's a little bit difficult to gauge. I cannot really give a prediction, actually. The UK is, though, here's one thing that I can say for certain. It is headed for more protests, more demonstrations and things like that. It remains to be seen whether the government there is really going to be receptive towards what people are saying. It remains to be seen. Let's go to our sponsors before we go to the news. We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills as well as doggo snacks. Doggos do love them, let me tell you. I've got first-hand experience with those. Took a couple this morning, might take more later. It invigorates me and is definitely neuroprotective. While I'm not a medical professional, so disclaimer, I'm not giving you official medical advice. In my own anecdotal experience, it is neuroregenerative and neuroprotective. I have my own reasons. I've experimented on myself with regards to this. It does work. Number 2, we've got BiltongUSA.com. Anytime we mention BiltongUSA.com, by the way, we must eat some Bovrite. Anton's got all the meat you need. You can get Wagyu, Angus, Cabanassi, bison, venison, and dozens of others, as well as Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available now as well. And finally, we've got jamandbean.com. That is jamandbean.com, where you can get Clank Blend coffee. Had some of that actually the other day. Oh, it's so good. It's a nice smooth coffee. It's not, some coffees are like on the acidic side. You don't have to worry about that with this. Also, in the land of yummy tea, I've got Yunnan Jig right now. Unfortunately, that's the last Yunnan Jig that I have. I drank the rest of it because it's so good. So I'm going to need about a whole box full. Thank you, Jam and Bean. I'm going to need that. By the way, use code STICKS on these sites for a little bit of a discount. That's what I'm talking about. Dan Klein, you took 2 doggos this morning? No, 2 of the brain pills. Brain squared pills from Cultivated Mind. I didn't try the doggo snacks, although I will say they actually didn't smell bad. They're probably fully edible for humans too. 6 dual activated mushroom extracts are available in the doggo snacks, and Pupper liked them a lot. They didn't last long. Ben Bacon, in your Bernie Sanders voice, say, "I'm Bernie Sanders, a proud trans man. I got a sex change last week, and I'm a bottom in a relationship with Bill Gates, a billionaire. Can you believe it? Okay, I did that. I don't know, I like doing Bernie Sanders' voice. Let's talk about MAHA. This is Make America Healthy Again. RFK Jr. is cast off as a conspiracy theorist because he's skeptical about certain injected materials, mRNA-based, which we have to allude to but can't explicitly state about on a YouTube live stream. There's a reason for this. It has to do with a large-scale cover-up, but again, we're not allowed to go into any more detail. I think that 99% of you are intelligent enough to know what I'm referring to. MAHA is the idea of improving the quality of food in the United States, improving people's exercise regimens, trying to keep people away from having to spend the rest of their life dosing themselves constantly by keeping them healthier in the first place so they never need to have those pills. Like, there's no need for anyone to have adult onset diabetes. I know some of you, statistically speaking, a few of you probably have that. Well, yeah, but you were lied to by the FDA and all these other groups into eating an entire loaf of Wonder Bread every day. I wonder, pun intended, why you got diabetes. Thankfully, along with liver failure, those are the only two major conditions that can actually be reversed and done away with. The liver is capable of generally regenerating itself, and diabetes is capable of being taken care of, assuming that you follow the right diet and exercise regimen. RFK Jr. is trying to make people aware of this fact, to get them to become more healthy, eating better, less pesticide residue in the food, less of the GMO nonsense, eating a healthy diet, getting enough exercise and stuff. This is, for some bizarre reason, eating whole foods and healthy things. For some reason, this is now conceived of as a conspiracy theory. I never thought that I would see the day when a bunch of hippies would be saying, no, you need to eat more McDonald's burgers, but that appears to be what they're talking about. Republicans are joining progressives, this is hysterical, in challenging big food and big ag, a break from past GOP positions. The health department is rolling out new food rules, some welcomed by experts, others sparking debate. Yeah, oh my God, you encourage people to eat greens? That doesn't generate as much tax revenue as these hamburgers over here. You shouldn't be doing that. MAHA's emphasis on self-empowerment and self-responsibility over relying on medical professionals has its limits. I disagree entirely. This is exactly what our health regimen needs to be. It's exactly the same thing we need for education, by the way. Take your own fucking initiative. If it's really that important to you, do it your fucking self. I'm sure that you can take an extra 20 minutes out of your day to learn a little bit more about nutrition and maybe cook something that's healthier as opposed to just nuking some Salisbury steak in the microwave. I'm pretty sure you're capable of doing that. I'm sure you're capable of taking 20 minutes out of your day to go through your child's homework, know what they're being taught, helping them out with learning, and possibly complaining if they're learning about sphincterbation or something like that. It seems it took American parents many years to realize that their children were learning about how to finger their own assholes. Well, that's not necessarily ideal. Just saying. Inland Surfer, I'm employed by the government, and my job class is unionized. We joke about what our product is. That is, we do have one. The union saves people from justified employment termination often. Yeah. Let's see. There was a fly on the screen. I was trying to ping it. I failed. I have failed you yet again. Not just a string. On the MAHA, it is sad how little genuine research gets done in improving people's health rather than how many pharmaceuticals you can get into them. My relatives think I'm crazy for eating offal. Yeah, people think that I'm crazy for some of my dietary choices, and I'm like, look, I'm going to imbibe whatever my body's telling me that I need, because inevitably it's going to be high in protein, high in fiber, high in vitamins and minerals, something like that, because that's stuff that I find tasty. But some people, they don't understand this. They think, why didn't you buy a hamburger? Well, I don't want a hamburger right now, but body doesn't crave one. Cooking Inferno, completely homemade Salisbury steak, including gravy, is delicious, much better than frozen. You know, I've never actually had one. I just use that as an example because it's like the classic atomic era sort of frozen meal. This is one that's a little bit more concerning. This one's not quite as funny as the first article. With MAHA, it's like you can joke because they're saying, well, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh my god, you wanted to eat a salad? You thought you needed more avocados? Why don't you eat some Burger King? I mean, I'm scrambled. As far as the left goes, they've sold out so badly. It's very, very difficult for me to keep track. But this one's a little bit less funny. In fact, it's dire. Wikipedia bias influences how one's perception of reality is perceived. Now, long ago, we learned in school, this is a thing back when I was in high school, Wikipedia is not a proper source for scientific knowledge. You can't use it, it's not peer-reviewed, it's just a write-up about things that are peer-reviewed. So if you wanted to use Wikipedia in order to do something for, you have to hand in a paper on, the sexual customs of cockroaches or something like that. Cockroaches! Some of you will get the reference. Look up Tourette's Guy. If you haven't seen it, then you haven't lived. But you could use it as a springboard to go into the scientific articles because they were all cited. And so if you could get through JSTOR or something like that, you could look at the articles. And that makes sense. Of course, a write-up is not necessarily accurate. The problem is that the AI systems that are scraping the internet 24/7 are scraping Wikipedia because it's got a shit ton of articles on a shit ton of issues. Which means if there's any bias in how the article was written, it's going to be displayed by the AI. This is rather unfortunate. It is also something that needs to stop. Wikipedia has become worthless. It's no longer collated mainly by private individuals that are tinkering with articles and adding their own expertise. It's mostly now collated directly by a handful of extremely biased individuals. You might as well scrape Rational Wiki. It would make absolutely no difference because, the end result from the AI would probably be about the same, except that Rational Wiki typically fixates on content creators as opposed to more meaningful material. As far as Wikipedia goes, though, if you're scraping articles that are heavily, heavily biased, they've been locked down, the only people that are able to edit them are people with a certain preconceived sort of set of views, the AI is going to reflect that. Unfortunately, that has begun to happen. I think that if I were to develop an AI program, I would specifically preclude Wikipedia from being consulted in any of the results because it's so heavily biased. And I've seen this myself. I've attempted to edit articles before with objectively and fully sourced factual material, and your edit will not be accepted simply because it goes against the grain of the flow of the article and what it wishes to purvey. You might get away with putting it at the very end if it's very, very heavily annotated. Other than that, good luck. Go ahead and try to become a Wikipedia editor unless you have a very left-leaning view on life. If you voted for Bernie Sanders several times, your edits will probably get through. If you are sane and understand basic human history, good luck to you. You might need that 4-leaf clover. The funny part, learn to discern. Wikifags hide behind reliable sources. That's a good point. That's the other problem. What constitutes a reliable source? Well, just because it comes from a source that you deem unreliable doesn't mean it's wrong, the article that you're referring to. And just because it comes from what you deem a reliable source doesn't mean that the article that you're referring to isn't wrong. But Wikipedia doesn't want to acknowledge this basic, obvious fact. There's a reason for this, just saying. Yeah, tarred and feathered. Dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay. Dreidel, 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 I think I might be gay. Oh, that song lends itself to like 1,000 fucking foul variants. The dreidel song. Oh, Anton is here. King of Biltong has arrived. Happy Monday to you too. Yeah, baby. Ah. Lord of the Rings, that's Peter Thiel's ringtone. I liked learning about shit. Shit. I've got biltong all over me. Anton has infected me with biltong disease. And it won't go away. It's delicious. Okay, better. Yeah, it's funny. I can remember, like, as a kid in the 90s, and probably many of you had this experience, we would learn about the story of Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, things like that. Also like Japanese religions and stuff like that. There was one where you'd throw beans over your shoulder in order to blind demons or something like that. I can't exactly remember. But I always thought that was great. And it's like, you know, one time we had a class where we had our seats arranged as though we were in an airplane. And we had like little bags of peanuts, and we were watching a video about Mexico, and it was like, you know, learning about other cultures. And you're like, oh, these other cultures are cool, and I want to be cool with these people. They're cool with me. Nobody hates each other. You know, we need to understand one another and be at peace. That was the 90s ethos. The new ethos is, ha ha ha, that person over there fucking hates you because they're of a different complexion than you. They're from a different country, so obviously you should hate them. And it's just a bunch of idpol nonsense. It's the exact opposite of what we were taught when we were kids. We were taught, look, you know, everyone shivers when they're cold. Everyone feels pain, and, you know, we go from there. And understanding that, hopefully there's less wars and there's less bullshit, and we can generally try to get along. Instead, the new ethos among the left is basically trying to drive people apart. Well, you know, you're an Anglo, so you can't possibly like this Hispanic over here. Oh, you're a minority, you're black, and so look at that cracker over there. You know, their family probably had your family as slaves 200 years ago. The nuance is lost. It's all a bunch of retardation. It's completely moronic. Don't give a fuck. Sorry. Riron Sticks, why do you think several MAGA candidates endorsed Chip Roy, Byron McDonald's, Laura Boebert, Andy Biggs, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, just to name a few, when MAGA candidate is running for Attorney General? Viability, I believe, more than anything else. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Emperor Soft Turtle, I think the spike trans mass shooters is a lot of trans are misdiagnosed and they have other mental ailments and the hormones they are not helping. Agreed. Yes. Yeah. The problem is that sometimes what would be conceived of as an ailment or a phenomenon within that person's personality, like transgenderism or something like that, can actually be an offshoot. You're looking at the branch. You're not looking at the whole tree. And so, in some cases, you can have a situation where that's simply a manifestation arising out of some other potential mental complaint or something like that. And this is not acknowledged for politically correct reasons. It's not acknowledged by mainstream medicine. RFK Jr. might acknowledge it, we might acknowledge it, but it's not recognized by, like, the pharmaceutical industry that wants to peddle pills to everyone. I fucking wonder why. To the Wanderer. I don't know. When I was in jail in New Orleans, 99% of the dudes over there were black. Nobody gave me any shit. They thought I was hilarious. I'm laughing about how I looked like Jesus, actually. Trump celebrates Labor Day as the most anti-union president ever. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried that things were going south, actually, in the United States, based on the reporting that I get from the legacy media. His unbound union busting is one front of his war on democracy. Yes, preventing people from being forced into joining unions is anti-democratic. This is exactly... I'm going to look up the goddamn interview. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'm looking something up really quickly. Let me goddamn get this shit. Amazon Breakthroughs. Yeah, with Lev. Lev's a cool dude, by the way. Let's see. Versus Logo, versus Jack Hoshirella, versus Armand, versus Lore. Yeah, I've done about a dozen debates on his channel. Oh, yeah, it was Jessica Burbank. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty widely agreed upon that I destroyed her completely. She's from the Young Turks, by the way. Yeah, I had fun. She is a fun person. Like, she doesn't seem like an asshole or anything like that. I don't think that she's motivated by malevolence. That's the whole problem. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? I fear a person like Jessica Burbank who genuinely believes in the shit that they're peddling and therefore is going to work twice as hard for it because they genuinely believe they're doing something right, as opposed to somebody who's just being disingenuous and they're like, hey, you know, I promote, like the David Hogg or something. He promotes his cause and he gets his paycheck and then he goes to sleep. That's basically his life. With Burbank, I think she genuinely believes what she's actually peddling. Let me put this goddamn link in the fucking description. This was probably my favorite debate that I've done on Break the Rules, and I need to get back on there to do more of them. So here, I'm going to post that over there. That's on Rumble, and then also on StreamYard for YouTube, and I think it posted to Twitter, but I'm not 100% sure, actually. Yeah, that was, in fact, I may watch the debate later. It was so funny. Somebody did like a 40-minute goddamn video where they were analyzing it and just going through it, and it was like total cutthroatlery. It was pretty funny. Yeah, so from the viewpoint of American workers, there have been better labor days. Donald Trump chose to celebrate this year's edition by announcing last Thursday his unilateral abrogation of the federal government's contracts with the unions that represent the scientists, engineers, and other staffers at NASA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which includes the NOAA, the Patent Office, and the International Trade Administration. Yeah, haha, good. I support this completely. Federal workers should never be unionized. They are at will. They are paid by the American taxpayer. They should not be allowed to unionize. You take the job or you leave it. That should basically be the terms. Now, for private businesses, let's say you have a bunch of people working in a factory that mines coal or something. And they decide to get together and they say, look, we're unionizing. We're a union now. And we want to negotiate with you. Here's our representative. And they want to talk with you about working conditions, wages, whatever the fuck it happens to be. Is this fine? Yeah, you're private individuals. Do it. You're not taxpayer funded. You can do whatever the hell you want. You want to form a union? That's great. But let's say that there are a couple of guys that don't want to join that union. And they go and they say, well, we're not part of their organization. Fuck it. We just want to mine coal. And we're perfectly satisfied. What people like Burbank would say is that because of collective bargaining, people who are in that minority, or potentially majority in some cases, that do not want to unionize should be forced to do so. So they should be forced to pay someone to represent themselves even though they do not believe that they need a representative. I happened to disagree with this. I think, if you want to unionize, that's fine. If the business fires you, that's fine too. Maybe they negotiate with you. That's fine. But if I don't want to be part of a union, there was a story. This is something that went under the radar almost completely. 99% of you have never heard of this. I'm wondering if any of you actually have. Not a single one of you, possibly. There was a push in Germany, this was 6 years ago or something like that, to create a union for YouTubers. They were trying to force content creators into a union. They were quite literally trying to do that. They were going to hold it over YouTube's head and say, hey, well, if you don't allow a creators union, we're going to ban you from Germany. And of course, Germany is a relatively large market with regards to content creation. Not the largest, but it's definitely on the top 10 list. So it would have been a big problem. They were trying to force people like myself to join a union that's not even run in the same goddamn country. And of course, I opposed this. I made a video on it at the time and said, I don't want to join your fucking union. Do it myself. I don't need to pay you money to represent me. What are you going to do? Is it going to change the algorithmic suppression? Probably not. Is it going to change the censorship? Well, if it's run in Germany, probably it'll just increase it more than anything else. So why the fuck would I want to pay into your program? You can screw yourself. And there's a cat here and there. Ew, yucky. The hell would I want to join your union for? So yeah, if you get a chance to watch the Burbank interview, I think I'm going to watch it later because I had such a great time. I will say one thing. Jessica Burbank was a trooper about it, even though she clearly lost. And just as an aside. But she, at the very least, she was willing to talk, which is more you can say for the average left-white. A lot of them, they would just rather call you a Nazi. Had a few people call me a Nazi during debates. It's happened before. Ruron, do you think Scott Presler is correct that both GOP, they are really America First, governor candidates for New Jersey and Virginia will lose in November? I'd have to look into more in-depth polling and take the pulse, but if Scott Presler believes something, usually he's right. Just saying. What do fuck? David Hogg is a midwit who is smart enough to know if guns are illegal, he would starve to death or only be employable at modeling tween girls' jeans. Lol. Oh, God. Yeah, David Hogg is a little bit weird. And keep in mind, he's one of the more intelligent liberals out there. He's actually, relatively speaking, I know it's very relative, he's actually one of them that has working neurons. This is really sad for the Democratic Party, by the way. Oh yeah, Greta. Greta Thunberg's narcissism knows no bounds. By the way, she hit the wall in her early 20s. I'm just saying, a couple years ago, like when she just barely turned 20, at the very least, she looked presentable. She's no longer even trying at this point. She looks all messed up and she's trying to run aid to Gaza that she knows is never going to get there just to get attention. And that's basically her career. At this point, her career is get attention. Nothing more. I half expect her to try to create like a rock album or something like that and put that out there. Oh, it's Greta Thunberg's Environ Rock. Yeah! We're rocking! Look at all these rocks on the ground. When we pile them around and put compost in them, man, we can grow things, man. We can, recycle and shit. It's pretty pathetic. Just saying. But, the Israelis are like, what the fuck are you doing? And then turn the shit back. And now she's complaining about it. It's like, you knew that this was going to happen. You knew that you were going to get turned back. That's the whole point. She's just trying to get fucking attention. For the amount that she spent on the pittance of aid that would have been delivered in the very, very off chance that the Israelis had just rolled their eyes and said, go ahead, we don't even give a fuck anymore. And personally, if I were running the show in Israel, and keep in mind, I am not Team Israel any more than I'm Team Palestine. I'm Team I don't give a fuck. Because I don't live there, I live in the United States, and I'm America First. If, though, I were in charge of logistics in Israel, I would have let them dock. In fact, I would have rolled out the red carpet. I would have said, yeah, go ahead. Guess what? We're not guarding you when you go into Gaza City. Have fun. Yeah, no, it's over that way. You're gonna want to drive over there with all of these food and medical supplies. Yep. Have a good day. You know what would happen? Greta Thunberg would very quickly be killed or raped or be a hostage. And that would kind of evince the point that the Israelis have been making with regards to Hamas, which Greta Thunberg doesn't appear to have gotten. You don't have to be Team Israeli, and I'm certainly not. Or it's certainly Team Judaism, because I'm a pagan. Or Team IDF, because fuck the IDF, I don't give a shit. You don't have to be a member of any of these teams to understand that Hamas and other Palestinians, whether they're in Hamas or not, are fanatics. Young girl, well, young woman now, I suppose, 22. I mean, I'm 37, so I consider 22 to be still a girl. Wanders into the Gaza Strip with a bunch of relatively valuable stuff. Food is at a premium there. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen? Or she doesn't give a shit. What do fuck? Jeans. Yeah, I got that one. Cooking Inferno. How dare you? Yeah, her how dare you speech was just so petulant. It's just like, and much like with David Hogg, when Thunberg and Hogg first started off, you could get banned for criticizing them too harshly because they were under 18. Well, now they're in their early 20s. So, yeah, holding back is no longer necessary. I remember there were several people that were banned for criticizing David Hogg, actually, back in the day. And I was like, come on, dude. This is the internet. What the fuck do you expect us to do? I'm not holding back. If I want to call someone a cracker, if I want to say fuck you, then I'm going to do it. Bondage Spider. She's going to get Gaza stripped. Yeah, if she spends any length of time in Gaza City, if she doesn't get blown up by an Israeli warhead, she will probably be abducted and gang raped to death. Yep. And honestly, if they pour acid on her face, it might improve her appearance. Oh, yeah, we got Rosie O'Donnell here. This is a joy to read out, as this has been ongoing since I was in fucking high school. Some of you may be too young to remember this. When I was in high school, there was a Flash game that was based on the famous feud between Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. And you could pick one of them, and then you would fight the opponent. And Donald Trump would whip her with his hair, and she would like throw shit at him and stuff like that. It was a very silly game. One of those very old Flash games like they had in the mid-2000s. You don't really get those anymore, which is sad, honestly, because some of them were great fun. I like Corporation Incorporated too, although it was way too easy even on hard mode, so whatever. Anyway, Rosie O'Donnell has issued an apology because she falsely claimed the Minneapolis church shooter was a Republican MAGA supporter. It turns out it was actually a far leftist who wanted to kill Donald Trump and was also transgendered. Whoops! Fucking whoops! Dude, I think you were a little bit wrong on that one. Lord of the Ree, Elon and Vivek aren't American. Yeah, Vivek has pretty much disappeared off of the radar, actually. He was shuffled along Chris Christie style. Which actually makes me happy because I was never particularly enamored to Vivek Ramaswamy. I do like Elon Musk, but I don't like everything that he believes in. But the leaps and bounds in technology that he's made justify, I think, dealing with the fact that I can't agree with everything that he says. Anyone who invents the first rocket that's capable of touching back down on a landing pad no bigger than a small house and then reusing it, okay, well, you've advanced human civilization. That's more than we can say for the average politician. Heraclius, is politics a debate or power struggle? Both. These can coexist. And I love this. Rosie O'Donnell apologizes. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry. And that's, if you look through her apology, it's basically a non-apology. I assumed, like most shooters, they followed a standard MO and had standard, feelings of, NRA-loving kind of gun people, O'Donnell continued. Anyway, the truth is, I messed up. And when you mess up, you fess up. I'm sorry. This is my apology video, and I hope it's enough. So you assume that it was some far-right NRA member, even though NRA members are almost never implicated in mass shootings, or shootings at all unless they're judged to be defensive. When's the last time that a card-carrying member of the NRA was implicated in a mass shooting of an aggressive nature? I can't even think of a single one. That's because the NRAs, they're a bunch of fuds that just want to own, shotguns and hunting rifles and stuff like that, and revolvers. These are not militants. They're not even close to survivalistic. They're more likely to vote for somebody like Mitch McConnell before they'd even vote for somebody like Rand Paul. These are people that they think that the Second Amendment covers their right to have manually fed firearms instead of like an Enfield or something like that. That's what they think. Single-shot revolvers. Now, there's nothing wrong with those weapons. They're still fun as fuck. But they're not as functional as more modern weapons. The NRA gets a little bit nervous around them. GOA, Gun Owners of America, they do it far better. Personally, I think there should be no red flag laws. I think that unless it's a felonious and violent crime, nobody should be prevented from owning firearms. I think that you should be able to mail order a machine gun. Today, for example, I've got enough money in my bank account that I can order a flamethrower online. All I have to do is prove that I'm 18 or older. There is nothing the government can do about it. And I've been convicted of an actual crime. Yeah, I've done my time, man. I'm a hardened spirit. I can buy a flamethrower literally this afternoon, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Do you realize the damage you could do with one of those shits? It'd be more considerable than a semi-automatic rifle, that's for sure. Especially in hands that know how to use it. And it's not even that expensive. Our gun laws make absolutely no sense. And with Rosie O'Donnell saying, "Oh, you must have been a MAHA member." No, actually, it was one of yours. It was one of those lefties out there. Which doesn't surprise me in the least, but probably surprises her. King of Biltong. Biltong is a high-protein snack with over 50% protein. Yum. It's also rich in B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. Go to www.biltongusa.com and use code STICKS for 10% off. Maybe I'll have some Vegemite this time. I feel like I'm neglecting the Vegemite. Despite the fact it's still really good. Yeah, it's more for on toast, though. The flavor is subtly different. It's hard to explain unless you've had all three of them. I can't really explain the difference. Lunar Eclipse. Sticks, thoughts on RFK Jr. finally investigating the link between SSRIs and these shootings. Time for Trump admin to sue Big Pharma. I support it completely. And I hope that they proceed with it, and I hope they're serious about it, because that is a huge problem. We've got a huge problem with people that quite clearly have violent ideations and stuff like that, but they're turned loose, and all the system does for them, and I feel sorry for them more than anything else, the nuts. Instead of doing intake and saying, look, we're going to try to get this person therapy, help them cope with their problems, help them cope with their thoughts, they just cast them loose. They're fucking homeless. They're like, hey, go back under your bridge, but here's some pills. We promise that they'll make you feel better. That's completely delusional. The mental health system is more delusional than the people that it's tasked with helping. Mr. Buster Pants, mass shootings happen every day in Chicago. True. Who blocked you, Bobby? East mode wanted to run you over with a car? I don't know anything about this, but we like Bobby Bobbinson here. He may not be a clanker, he may be more of a troll, but hey, I ain't no hypocrite. I've been trolling for 20 years. That's what I'm talking about. Human plague case reported. Patient likely exposed while camping. New Mexico health officials warn that the plague circulates among wildlife. I am going to give you the true skinny. This is not a clickbait sub-article. Plague is still endemic in some parts of the southwestern United States. Occasionally somebody gets sick. I don't know of any deaths related to it for the last 5 to 10 years or thereabouts, because we have antibacterial and antiviral injections available now. Bacteria and viruses tend not to be as much of a problem as they were before. What you really need to worry about is if it evolves into pneumonic plague. That would be a little bit of a problem. All of a sudden an entire town gets, Yersinia pestis, and it tends to be more pneumonic or septicemic. That's even more deadly, and just spreads like wildfire. It'd be like the literal Black Death. Plague, though, it affects a handful of people every year. Normally in the southwestern United States, as well as certain parts of Asia. It's really sporadic, though, so it's not one of the diseases that you would expect to break containment. It's probably not going to happen. Certainly, if it happened in China, they would just cordon off the whole area with tanks and kill anyone that came within distance, so it wouldn't be a problem for very long, because everyone would die. They wouldn't really give a shit, because communists don't care about human life. With regards to the United States, though, you get a couple of cases each year from those deserts, mostly related to certain rodents, prairie dogs, rats, things like that. But it's not actually that transmissible. When we're talking about the Black Death, like way back in the day, back in the medieval period, you're talking about a mutant variant that probably was more pneumatic than anything. Pneumonic plague, of course, it's introduced by droplets. It's effectively, honestly, it's kind of like the miasmus theory. It's almost similar to that. Normal bubonic plague, though, really, you're probably not going to catch it from someone who's infected, because it's concentrating in the buboes and stuff. So unless you physically touch them, you're probably not really at risk. I mean, they might cough up blood on you. That might be a problem, but generally speaking, you'd have to, have extensive contact with them. So don't worry about such things. They're trying to use any disease, anything that'll panic the public. They're trying to drum it up in order to justify more election interference, I think. So we must be resistant to that and ignore them. And the best way to ignore them, to spread awareness about these diseases. Inland Surfer, Air Force honoring Ashley Babbitt's family an offer for her full military funeral. The left state it dishonors the military. Oh, I've got to see that. Oh yeah, it looks like a... Ha 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 ha! Ashley Babbitt is getting full military honors. Thank goodness, long overdue. This is what I voted for. Okay, we're looking into that shit. Ha 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 ha! Oh god, the left is gonna go insane over this, dude. Alright, that's going in the docket for tomorrow. Thank you very much for that news tip, by the way. Yeah. Lunar eclipse. Sticks. Why does Israel secretly hate and undermine USA as our greatest ally? Unacceptable for Trump admin to allow pedophile to go back to Israel. I saw that and I was definitely unhappy about it. I'm assuming that there was some sort of behind the scenes negotiation that went on. Basically, hey, we'll let you have your pawn back, but we need a knight, or something like that. you know, this happens all the time within politics and criminal investigations as well. Soul Quest for always keeping it real and dishing out knowledge. Yeah, it looks like we're going to dish out some Ashley Babbitt knowledge too. That's what I'm talking about. Bobby Bobinson. Sticks, have you ever given it to a clankette in her booty hole? No comment. Yeah, so we do have plague in New Mexico. We're all going to die. No, I'm just joking. It's not going to spread beyond that original patient. The odds of anyone getting sick from a plague patient are fairly low unless it happens to mutate. Thankfully, it looks like it doesn't mutate often. Otherwise, 5-6 billion people could die. How lovely! Well, I mean, there'd be plenty of extra land available. I guess the garden can expand. I don't know if YouTube would still be functional. 30 years later, I stagger out on the set. Oh, I've got my garden. Oh, look at my collards. Oh, I've got my beats. Oh. Yeah, that's about how it would go. India's growing lion population should be cause for celebration, but it's also a deadly problem. This is something that I didn't realize. India has been creating, expanding a sanctuary for its Asiatic lion population. They're critically endangered. Thankfully, their numbers are picking up. So you've got a more than doubling, actually, of the actual population over not that many years. So it's been a very successful program, which is great because, you know, lions are cool and I would love to see them. But there's a problem. Some farmers are saying, well, they're ripping apart, you know, animals that are attacking my garden. I welcome them here. Trust me, if a lynx decided to move in next door and kill all the moles and voles and stuff, I wouldn't be that upset over that. I'd be quite happy, actually. You know, we're a fucking cougar, or whatever. It literally doesn't matter. But then others, which are more engaged in the pastoral side of things, so they're growing, you know, they're raising cattle, goats, things like that. Those are being sporadically predated upon by the lions. So they're on the opposite end of the spectrum, and they're like, this is becoming a problem for us. And they've got several plans available. One of them is to take some of the lions and relocate them a short distance away to a different conservation field. Another one is to reintroduce them to a separate province, actually, and relocate them there. Considering the considerable increase in the population as a result of their very, very effective environmental methods. This is real environmentalism, not that fake bullshit, so congratulations to the nation of India for doing something positive. Many countries fail to do this sort of thing. I would think you could do both, actually. Why not just seed both populations and then let them reproduce? Have thousands of fucking lions. One thing is that the original province, the only one where they're present in, they like the tourist money as a result of this. And so they're trying to pressure the Indian government to not relocate them to any other areas, because then they'll lose their monopoly on lion tourism. I would say the Asiatic lion, being critically endangered, is a little bit more important than your tourist revenue. I would encourage the Indian government to simply subsidize these people, give them some goddamn money, pay them off, take some of the lions and put them elsewhere. They'll do fine. That's what I would personally do if I were in charge of the nation of India. And Modi, by the way, is an intelligent fellow. So he probably will do something along those lines. It'd be the best thing possible to do. You quell any possible unrest in the native population, while also increasing the habitat for these lions, which are helpful, again, for some farmers. If you're growing nothing but vegetables, lions aren't going to grab your vegetables, but they will attack the things that are trying to grab your vegetables. It just makes sense. Pete Bissar, Vivek is running for governor of Ohio. Yeah, no. No, that's gonna be a no for me. Yeah, I wouldn't vote for Vivek. I'm sorry, but the dude always rubbed me the wrong way. He always came off as disingenuous and self-absorbed. I realized that he got involved with the Doge thing, but he was kind of pushed aside even before Elon Musk sort of abandoned the project in general. I think there was a reason for that. Musk is intelligent enough. He interacted with Ramaswamy. I think he got bad vibes, and he's like, ah, shit, this ain't gonna work out. And so he just sort of shit canned him. Cooking Inferno, I think the Indians have also greatly expanded the number of Bengal tigers and leopards as well. Yeah, Bengal tigers are great. I was slightly obsessed with those as a kid, actually. Yeah, so I guess we have to talk about Ashley Babbitt tomorrow. Yeah, Air Forcer versus Biden administration grants military funeral honors to J6 protester Babbitt. Oh, this is gonna fuck up the left wingers real bad. Oh yeah. Grand Theft King. Did you watch Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell? Not yet. The other night, was I watching? Oh, it was Jurassic Park. Uh, yeah. Let me cue that up really quickly. Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Let me cue that up really. I'll try to put it on. You know what? I just realized I forgot to buy 9-grain bread when I was out at the store. My dad made a minestrone soup, and it's really good, let me tell you. And it's always better the second day. I was gonna get 9 grains bread and dip that in the soup, but I forgot to get it. I need to punish myself by electrocuting my own nose. Oscar Gonzalez, yeah, the autoerotica. I get the reference. Are these autoerotica? I love that scene, by the way. The derpy lawyer was one of the comedic foils of that movie. Yeah, the original Jurassic Park is a masterpiece. One of the few movies better than the book, by the way. Lost World was good. A lot of people kind of panned it. They didn't really like it as much. I thought it was great. And then the third one, a lot of people thought was better than Lost World, but I fucking hated it. The acting in there was so goddamn cardboard, dude. Especially the ending. Come on. You cannot defend the ending to the third Jurassic Park movie. Wow, she sent the Navy and the Marines. Wow, kid. All right. Sorry, but yeah, you lost me, dude. The Wanderer. Tarl, did you see JD's weird remarks about Trump dying in office? No, actually. No, I didn't see that. Yeah, I thought Lost World was actually really good. I remember watching that when I was in elementary school. I thought it was hilarious. You know, Ian Malcolm is the main protagonist. And that was funny because, you know, every other line is sarcasm. And he wears a leather jacket. So, you know, I sort of slightly identify with that particular character. Also, I knew somebody, I won't say who it is, who actually went on a date with him at one point. And apparently he's a gentleman and very skilled and nice and likes to play music and stuff like that. He was totally gentlemanly. Snake split rat. They were saying he died because they hadn't seen him in 10 hours. Steve Mistrus started over Trump's lower leg edema. Yeah, I've seen some bullshit about that. You know, when you get to be up towards 80, having a little bit of edema in your lower extremities is not necessarily the most abnormal thing in the world. Ronald Simmons, Godzilla versus Trump. Who would win that match? Well, when Trump calls in the tactical nukes, I think that Godzilla probably goes down. Not that it doesn't kill Trump as well, but, you know. Took one for the country. Stop this fucking Asiatic lizard man. Imagine Godzilla versus, like, Gavin Newsom, though. Gavin Newsom's like, hey, you want some drugs? Oh shit, you smoked them all and you're still not high? Let me call somebody who knows somebody. Skippy, Sticks won't read this chat. I just did. Yeah, I forgot to buy 9-grain bread. Now I'm sad. I was gonna dip it in the friggin' soup. But no. Ron Simmons, Godzilla versus Sticks. Who would win that match? I don't think Godzilla gets this far inland usually. He seems to like the coast more than anything else. Could cook him a big batch of stir fry. Maybe he'd leave me alone. That'd be a funny movie idea, actually, Lord of the Rings. Trump goes Iron Giant mode to save the world. Imagine that you have, like, Godzilla and or Bigfoot. I mean, fucking King Kong. One of those old, or Mothra. One of those old movie monsters. And then somebody builds, like, a giant mech. Like, a huge robotic body that they're piloting. And you make it deliberately campy, like one of those old like 50s and 60s sci-fi movies, the ones that make absolutely no sense. That would be fun. Humble meme farmer, radioactive shrimp stir fry. Yeah. Like they lure Godzilla in, or again King Kong or Mothra or whatever. Lure them in with a huge platter of food. They go door to door and they get all the tastiest food in the city. And they lay it out in an enormous buffet right in the middle of the road. And then the monster starts eating it all and is very happy. And then they start, like, you know, I don't know, hitting it with a giant flamethrower or something like that. And then it's screaming and dying. And then they have a huge fight and, you know, the end. Dude, you could make a low budget movie like that and it would be hilarious. Snakes bleed red. Kilroy? Meisner Flux. I agree with RFK's focus on SSRIs as their link to violent crimes has been observed for decades. True, by the way. And general degradation of the user. I believe the new phase will be the fungus-based paradigm. I can say that there are fungus extracts that are neuroregenerative and extremely healing. And that is not an exaggeration. Disclaimer, I'm not a physician or anything like that, but I can tell you they are neuroregenerative. And I couldn't even believe it. It's time for some more tea, my friend. I'm going to go live a little bit longer than usual, but I need to use the bathroom, if that's all right. So I'll be right back. Give me like, yeah, I don't know, a minute or two or something like that. I'll be right back. All right, everyone, I managed to go to the bathroom. Sometimes it is important. Let's see. Waiter, more tea will do that. Yeah, it's probably the tea. I drank a shit ton of it today. I can't remember how many cups of tea I actually had. I think 4 of them, actually. Lots of them. And I've still got a half of a cup of tea here, too. I like tea. Unfortunately, I'm now out of the Yunnan jig, which means I need to wait until the next shipment to have more. I do have other teas, but they're of different kinds. I've got this spicy prototype tea, which is good. A little bit too spicy for me, so I had to message him and tell him about that. Got the peppermint tea. I've got the pear tea. And there's one other, I can't remember exactly what it was called. But the Yunnan jig, yeah, it's pretty much all been devoured. Poppy Poppinson, he's drinking again. Yes, indeed, I'm drinking lots of tea. I like that standard black tea like they have in Chinese restaurants. But this is like the much better version of it. So, yeah. Turtle's Toy Box. Those teas all sound gay as fuck. Well, the Yunnan jig at least has caffeine in it, so it's pretty yummy. Anyways. Plane carrying EU's top leader targeted by alleged Russian GPS jamming. We're not 100% sure whether this is actually legit or not. You've got a lot of such claims. For instance, Russia throttled its own gas pipeline. And then it turns out Russia didn't do that. Somebody else did, and it was probably Ukrainian saboteurs. Which made more sense, because it wouldn't make any sense for Russia to shut off its own gas pipeline when it could always hold it over the head of Europe and threaten to turn it off if they did not cooperate. Apparently, this was not well received by the average and sub-average minds of people in the Western world. They did not understand why Russia would not do such a thing because it would make literally no sense. So yeah, apparently, supposedly, the Russians were GPS jamming the plane that was carrying the head of globalism. Oh, I mean the head of the EU, actually Ursula von der Leyen, over on Sunday. I'm not convinced about why I should really care about this. I'm just saying, at some point I'm like, hey, you're over in Europe, and these other people are over in the Middle East. These other people are in Asia. I inhabit the North American continent. I care about this particular hemisphere. I believe that it should be safe and free and prosperous, and we've got all the resources we could ever need and all the cool shit in the world. We don't need you people. It's not necessary for us to appease you. We can just lock everything off as long as we got this hemisphere. Fuck yourself, you know. You go and do whatever you want. Go and do your court intrigue and shit like that. Have a nuclear war for all we care. You know, we'll just hand out iodine pills or something like that. That's what I think we should do. We should effectively tell the rest of the world, if you want to work with us and you want to do it friendly, we're willing to do the same. If you don't want to, if you're going to be unfriendly, if you're going to be unfair, if you're going to be retarded, we'll just cut you out. You're not part of this entire economic hemisphere anymore. You can go and revert to third world status because for most of you, that's what's going to happen. That's what I would encourage. I had great fun in Europe. The Netherlands being very much greater than Germany, by the way. Germany was just like, it's just sad. Like, you got a bunch of houses that are painted like dark brown and black, and everything's just, other than the old architecture, everything's just kind of dour, just kind of sad for the most part, compared to the Netherlands. And the people are just like way, way less polite and way less nice. Like, you're like, in the Netherlands, you go to something like, oh, yeah, hey, where's the street? You'll probably get an answer. They'll at least try to help you figure it out. In Germany, they're more likely to shove you to the side and then just go marching down the street in a huff or something like that. I was not a fan of Germany. I loved the Netherlands. Stuttgart, says Slimy. I never went to Stuttgart. Anyways, I'm going to go offline now. I'm going to save these other ones for tomorrow. I've got LA council member accuses Home Depot of being complicit with ICE raids. That'll be a good one. And I wanted to get to that debate with Jessica Burbank because it's funny. And then the Air Force reversing the Biden administration, granting military honors to protester Babbitt, who was murdered by a DC police officer for literally no reason, despite being completely unarmed. And she was called a domestic terrorist for trying to go through a door. She was trying to get away from other people who were crowding her in and forcing her forward, but she's still a domestic terrorist. This was one of the greatest miscarriages of justice that's ever been happening in the United States and is completely unacceptable. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that as well. I'm not sure. Will I do that on a one-off or on a live? I'm not 100% sure, actually. Anyways, I've got something that I've got to deal with. Good luck, everyone. That's about all. Peace out.